Chapter 651, Booze. The small, separate stages in the Grand Star Dou Stadium had been replaced by a much larger one, which had a radius of about 800 feet and a sole barrier as high as 600 feet. Unlike before, the stadium now allowed one match to take place at a time, be it a 1-on-1, a 2-on-2, or a team battle. There were several huge screens hanging high above the stage to give the audience a much clearer view. It had taken them a good 3 days to set up all of this. The final knockout stage had attracted the most audience as always. They were now sitting in the stands, chatting excitedly and waiting for the fights to begin. So many contestants had signed up for this tournament in an attempt to reap money and fame. Needless to say, the 64 of them who had made the final stage of the 1-on-1 competition had gotten both. They had successfully caught the attention of the talent scouts from many large organizations, and if they managed to advance to the next round, their prize money would double. 3 of the 64 were from the Shrek Academy, 5 were from the Monster Academy, which was a record low. Now they were all waiting in the same waiting area equipped with 64 luxurious single couches. A dozen pretty and spirited young waitresses were walking around with smiles, holding trays of dessert and drinks. They were showing off their voluptuous figures and trying to chat up every male competitor, in the hope of making the young talents fall for them. If they ended up getting married to them, which had happened before, they would most likely have a bright and carefree future. That waitress makes 6. Which one of these lovely girls is going to spend the rest of their life with you, Captain? Xu Shaoan asked, smiling. They had been sitting here only a short while, but already 6 waitresses had come over and asked Tang Wulin if he'd like some dessert or drinks. When it came to looks, no one here could compete with Tang Wulin. He was young, handsome, and strong. Few women could resist his appeal. Dou Yuan was also very attractive, but these women knew that the future emperor wouldn't take an interest in them. As for Long Yue, he was strong, to be sure, but his bald head and the scary vibes he constantly gave off served as nothing but a woman repellent. Tang Wulin smiled wryly. Focus on the competition, Shaoan. Dou Yuan's mouth twisted in contempt. What's wrong, Yuna? Asked Dou Yuan, who was sitting beside her. Dou Yuan gave a snort of disgust. These waitresses are acting like they've never seen a man before. Don't mind them. Dou Yuan smiled. Have you figured out how to defeat Tang Wulin? Of course, she said, shaking her little fist. I'll make him beg for forgiveness, but he won't receive any. Long Yue laughed. Atta girl, I'll be rooting for you. Teach him a lesson. According to the matchups, I'll fight him in my second match. That's if he wins his first match, said Dou Yuan. I'll teach him to mess with me. Dou Yuan could see that she was just acting fury, so he shook his head. The students of the Monster Academy were under more pressure than those from the Shrek Academy, but they were much older and had home court advantage. They couldn't afford to lose in front of so many people who were cheering for them. The championship of the 1-on-1 competition is as good as ours, thought Dou Yuan, but the Shrek Academy will make us look bad enough. If even only one of them makes the top 4, we have to stop him. I have to stop him. That was when a bright beam of light shot down from the sky to the center of the stage. A figure started to descend slowly in the light beam. She was wearing a yellowish dress, relaxed and graceful, with delicate features and an attractive smile. Welcome, everybody, to the final stage of the Continental Young Elites tournament, she said as she descended. My name is Fonga, and I will be your host and commentator today. The audience greeted her with a roar of applause and cheering. Her incisive commentary and gorgeous face had won her great popularity in this tournament, so she had been asked to host and commentate on the rest of the event. Fonga bowed in the direction of the VIP seats, which were right above the waiting area, as soon as she landed on the stage. Today is the first day of the final stage of our 1-on-1 competition, Fonga said. As you can imagine, the fights will grow more intense from here. A moment of negligence is enough to cost one the match. Although I know it's impossible, I still wish every contestant could win. Of course, it's more important to you that you show your true skills and enjoy the competition. The applause thundered. Fonga bowed to Dai Tianling again and walked to her table. All the spotlights started shining and focused on the stage. Although it was daytime, they had managed to make the stage even brighter. 16 1-on-1 matches would be held today, and the other 16 tomorrow. Tang Wulin and Yuanen would compete today, while Shishi's first match had been scheduled for tomorrow. Would the first 2 contestants please come to the stage? Said Fonga. I believe one of them has been the center of your attention for a long time. He is from the Douluo continent, the birthplace of the Star Luo Empire. He is also the captain of the team from the Shrek Academy, the #1 academy on the whole Douluo continent. His name is Tang Wulin. The organizers of the tournament had arranged for Tang Wulin to fight the first match, because he was the captain of the team from the famous Shrek Academy, which had become as notorious here as the Monster Academy was popular. And Tang Wulin himself had garnered a handsome amount of attention after defeating 2 of the Monster 8 kings, Su Mu and Hulantong. The organizers had also arranged for Long Yue to compete in the last match tomorrow. According to the matchups, Tang Wulin had no chance of meeting Long Yue until the final. Of course, this was their tactic to attract the audience. Loud boos ensued after Fonga said Tang Wulin's name. Tang Wulin rose to his feet and walked out of the waiting area. The students of the Monster Academy were staring at him. Long Yue was smiling, yet Dou Yuan was fuming. She was very vengeful. She couldn't help but grit her teeth in hatred every time she thought of the day Tang Wulin turned her down. The other contestant is one of the most talented students from the Imperial Star Luo Academy. Fonga continued. His name is Simishen, 20 years old, a rising star. He was originally enrolled at the Monster Academy, but due to personal reasons, he ended up at the Imperial Star Luo Academy. He has never lost one fight in this tournament, so this promises to be a great match. Chapter 652, Simishen. The Monster Academy team was surprised. They knew the name and the history between Simishen and Long Yue. There were few times when Long Yue felt embarrassed. As he felt his teammates' eyes on him, it struck him that this was one of them. Simishen was on his way to school. He was happy, because he had gotten admitted to the most prestigious school on the Star Luo continent. When he arrived at the gate of the Monster Academy, a bald man came up to him. You got any money on you? The man asked, raising a hand to stop him. Who are you? I'll tell you who I am after you give me your money, the bald man said. These are some fancy clothes you got on. You must be a rich kid. Simishen snorted. You don't know who you're messing with. If I weren't in a hurry, I'd knock your teeth out. Now beat it and don't let me see your ugly face around here again. You sure are cocky, aren't you? Hand over your money now. I can assure you that you don't want me to make you. I'd like to see you make me. Simishen fumed, emanating a dangerous aura, his eyes burning with anger. You want my money? Come get it. He was hailed as a genius soulmaster. He'd never let this bald guy bully him into handing over his money, even though the bully was much bigger than him. 2 minutes later, I knew you had a lot of money on you. Thank you, shorty, the baldy said, taking his foot off Simishen's back. Come find me anytime if you want your money back. The name is Long Yue. With that, he turned around and strode into the Monster Academy. Simishen pulled himself to his feet, blood welling from his mouth. He turned and slunk away, with a defiant growl to save his pride. Later, he enrolled at the Imperial Star Luo Academy. If NC hadn't seen the potential in Long Yue, he would have been dispelled. Still, he got disciplined by the Monster Academy. Long Yue turned and found his teammates smiling knowingly at him. Only you can laugh at me, Long Yue said with feigned anger, shaking his fist. The rest of you, stop smiling or I'll make you stop. But instead of stopping, they burst into a fit of laughter. Simishen was lean, only about 5 feet tall and his eyes almost as attractive as those of Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin met his eyes and saw a strong desire in them. Why is he staring at me like that? He wondered. He didn't know what had happened between Simishen and Long Yue, so he couldn't come to the conclusion that he was eager to test his skills on him. Getting beaten up and robbed of his tuition fees was an absolute disgrace to Simishen. He had attempted 3 times to seek revenge, but each time he had lost worse than the time before. He had discovered to his dismay that the gap in power between him and Long Yue had become even wider, so he started training hard in the hope of catching up to him. It had been 3 years since he last saw Long Yue, and Simishen felt he was ready now. He had been looking forward to this match ever since he had found out that he got to fight Tang Wulin, because everyone knew this captain of the Shrek Academy team was strong, and was comparing him with Long Yue. Simishen was excited, thinking about how to beat Tang Wulin. After I beat him, everyone will know my name, and I'll be more confident of getting my revenge and redeeming myself. The referee took a look at them and started the match. Sitting straight at her table, Fonga said, the match has started. Let's see who will win. Simishen is making his first move. He is releasing his martial soul. 5 purple soul rings. His soul rings can even rival those of a fine student of the Monster Academy. His martial soul is the Tarking dragon, a descendant of a dragon and a Tarking. It inherited its strength from the dragon and its speed from the Tarking. Hearing this, Shishi and Yuanen Yui smiled at the same time. Tang Wulin didn't move. The stage was too big, so he had decided to wait for Sima Shen to come to him. Sima Shen's first soul ring started shining, followed immediately by the second one. His body stretched and swelled as he transformed into a Tarking dragon with a long tail and 2 huge Tarking horns. The dragon that had mated with the Tarking was one of the 9 dragon kings which possessed immense strength, but still, the power in Sima Shen's blood couldn't hold a candle to that of Tang Wulin, or Long Yue or Sunyu, for that matter. Sima Shen charged at Tang Wulin with his head down, giving off a frightening aura. His hooves stomped the ground, creating yellow ripples of light. That was his soul skill, gravity control. The power of this technique could grow with his soul power. Right now he was able to increase the gravity around him 5-fold, and the gravity increase didn't affect him a bit. Tang Wulin couldn't hear what Fonda was saying, but he could sense the draconic vibe Sima Shen was giving off. He was glad. Sima Shen was really fast, his hind legs long and stout, his horns gleaming. The effect of his gravity control had already reached his opponent when he was still 300 feet away. That was when Tang Wulin's eyes started shining a bright golden. His scales appeared and instantly spread across his body. His first golden soul ring lit up. Golden dragon body. His eyes fixed on Sima Shen, his golden claws hanging at his sides. Chapter 653. Dominating the match. Sima Shen was determined to defeat Tang Wulin, so he was not going to hold anything back. Without hesitation, he used his third soul skill. Thick, brownish red scales sprouted out of his body as he grew bigger. In an instant, he had become 16 feet long including his tail, moving as fast as a soul train. With his speed, assault-type martial soul, and gravity control, he had easily come up with several different attack combos. Tang Wulin felt the air thickening around him and the gravity dragging him down. He could have overpowered the gravity and dodged Sima Shen's attack, but he decided to meet it head on. A faint smile touched his lips. With a draconic roar, he stomped on the ground with his right foot, summoning 8 phantom dragons which were giving off a kingly vibe. To Sima Shen's shock, the roar sent a chill down his spine. He didn't stop though. Even if he had wanted to, he couldn't have stopped in time, not with his current speed and weight. On coming into contact with the phantom dragons, Sima Shen suddenly found that he was losing control of his body, as if his blood and soul power had stopped circulating and started freezing. Before he could figure out why and make any reactions, the 8 phantom dragons slammed into him, sending him flying up into the sky. Everyone watching was stunned, including Fauna. I can't believe my eyes. Fonda exclaimed in shock. Somehow Sima Shen's soul skill had no effect on Tang Wulin at all. Tang Wulin's technique didn't look like a soul skill to me, but look at its power. It stopped a charging dragon with such ease and then knocked him into the sky. Sima Shen has suffered a forceful attack. Fonda's commentary was extremely fast, but not without emotion. Judging from her incredulous tone, apparently she didn't have a clue as to what had just happened. The smile on Long Yue's face disappeared abruptly. He found himself sitting up straight and gazing intently at the stage. He had fought Sima Shen more times than he had liked, so he had quite a good understanding of his soul skills. Sima Shen's power can't hold a candle to mine, yet the gap between him and the other Monster 8 Kings is not big. But still, he is getting completely dominated by someone whose cultivation level is lower than him. Tang Wulin, you and your techniques have successfully intrigued me. Tang Wulin bent his legs and leapt into the air, leaving both the ground and Sima Shen's gravity control shattered. Sima Shen struggled to regain control of himself in midair but failed. His body numb and heavy with pain. The impact from the attack had left him unable to move a muscle. He hurriedly used what was left of his control over his soul power to fortify his defenses, bracing himself for what was coming next. Once Tang Wulin caught up with his opponent, he raised both hands high above his head, coiled them into fists, and brought them down with a draconic roll louder than before. Many people closed their eyes in fear of what was about to come. Sima Shen shot down like an arrow and smashed into the ground with a dull thud, leaving a crater with long, deep cracks wetting out around the impact. Tang Wulin landed steadily on the stage, his scales and golden claws blinding in the sunlight. The stadium fell deathly silent. They stared at Tang Wulin, but it seemed all they could see was a beast in human form. Sima Shen was lying there, motionless. The man hailed as the most talented soul master in the Imperial Star Dou Academy had gotten taken down in mere seconds. The medical team rushed onto the stage the moment the referee declared Tang Wulin victorious. Fonda gaped at Tang Wulin, eyes wide open. He could have torn Sima Shen into shreds if he had hit him with his sharp talons instead of his fists. What incredible power! He won without breaking a sweat, even though his opponent is a 5-ring soul king and didn't take him lightly. Everything had happened so fast that Sima Shen hadn't even gotten to use his battle armor. Without doubt, battle armor could bring a soul master's attack and defensive power to another level, but this didn't seem to have applied to Tang Wulin's opponents who have full set of one-word battle armor, since none of them had gotten the better of him even for a second. Ling Waxi had managed to put on his battle armor, but Tang Wulin had defeated him before he could use its power. Huolantong's battle armor had gotten trapped in a net. As for Sima Shen, he hadn't gotten any chance to release his armor. Each of Tang Wulin's matches had ended quicker than the one that had come before it, each one more shocking than the last. Everyone sitting in the stands was taken aback, including those who had laughed at him when he forfeited his match against Yuanen. For a moment they were confused whether standing there on the stage was a human or a beast. Chapter 654. Shush. Tang Wulin turned back into the spirited handsome boy that he was as his claws and scales disappeared. He looked up at the stands and put a finger to his lips. Shh. Then he smiled and got off the stage. You can insult me all you want. I'll shut you up with the results. The audience burst into an uproar. Who the fuck do you think you are? This is the Douluo Empire. Go back to your shithole country where you belong. Did nobody teach you any manners? They had thought their boost had intimidated Tang Wulin when he first entered the stage, as he had made no response. They had never expected him to strike back in this way. Dai Tianling's face darkened. MC was not here today. The emperor was being accompanied by several well-renowned old soul masters in the Douluo Empire. Talk about arrogance. One of them snorted. He was right. Tang Wulin's behavior had been arrogant, but it was them who had left him no choice. What had the Shrek Academy team done to deserve all this verbal abuse? The people here had taken to hating them just because they were outsiders. It was not appropriate for a delegate to have behaved like that, and he had set a classic example of how not to promote peace between the two continents. But no one from the delegation, including the leader, considered Tang Wulin's behavior wrong, because he had defended the honor of the Douluo continent. With a faint smile on his face, Tang Wulin strutted back to the waiting area, deaf to the insults being fired at him. I made it to the next round. He looked at Long Yue, lips curving up in a smirk. Long Yue smirked back, giving Tang Wulin a thumbs up before turning it into a thumbs down. Tang Wulin grinned, revealing his white teeth, and sat down. That kid is too cocky, boss, said a young man sitting beside Long Yue. I never thought Sima Shen would lose so easily. Long Yue snorted. Tang Wulin's bloodline suppressed his, most likely, but he is strong, that's for sure. Anyone who says otherwise is a fool. Diana turned to gaze at Tang Wulin. Can I beat him? Was that his full power? Although he's just a 4-ring soul master like me, he's unmistakably a formidable opponent. The more she knew about him, the more she wanted to know. The princess was curious by nature. Yuanen nudged his sister. Never let your guard down when you fight him. Go all out from the very beginning and take him down. Don't give him any opportunity. I won't. Don't worry, fourth brother. I'll beat him. Yuanen said, shaking her little fist. Yuanen smiled. She is even more talented than I am, and Tang Wulin's strength won't do him any good against her. They had to put the competition on hold while having the stage fixed. Please calm down, everybody, said Fonga. The doctor said Sima Shen just passed out. He'll be fine. The ruckus died down. In all honesty, I didn't quite understand why Sima Shen's charging had no effect whatsoever, continued Fonga, and it baffled me how someone could have taken him down in such a short time, not to mention the fact that he is stronger than Tang Wulin in terms of soul power. So I consulted several authorities, and they told me that Tang Wulin may possess some kind of ability which suppressed Sima Shen. Please look at the screens. Fonga started to replay the footage of the match. When Sima Shen got close enough to Tang Wulin, she put the replay in slow motion. You can see the yellow ripples of light under Sima Shen's feet, which are showing the range of his gravity control. Clearly Tang Wulin is now under the influence of this soul skill, but after he gave a roar, he disturbed the ripples and blocked Sima Shen's attack with ease. When Sima Shen crashed into the phantom dragons, he stopped moving, as if he had been controlled by Tang Wulin's technique. We haven't figured out what this technique is though. Hopefully his next match will provide us with the answer. Fonga paused for a moment. While he is young, there is no denying implying that the captain of the Shrek Academy team is strong. Her remarks were short and to the point, and they contained important information for Tang Wulin's opponents, but she made no comments on Tang Wulin's provocative gesture. Tang Wulin closed his eyes and seemed to be lost in thought. The swearing and cursing had finally quieted down. Hurling insults was hard work. Maybe their mouths had gone dry. Half an hour later, the stage was ready and the second match started. Although the first match had been short, it was so shocking that the audience still hadn't recovered even after the second match started. It was also a great match, but they were in no mood for it yet. Even Fonga's commentary was much less enthusiastic. 10 minutes later, the second match was over with a 4-ring young man winning. At least half of the 64 people who had made it into the last stage were 5-ring soul kings. Most of the 4-ring soul masters who had made it this far had a special technique or two up their sleeve. The next several matches confirmed this point. In one of them, a 4-ring soul ancestor defeated a 5-ring soul king. The latter had no battle armor though. In an unusual match, a contestant beat his opponent with his skilled control of a purple mecha. Generally speaking, a 4 or 5-ring soul master should be able to use the full power of a purple mecha. It was better to them than a black one, since their cultivation level rendered them unable to use a black mecha to the full. The seventh match, Yuanen of the Shrek Academy versus Tang of the Monster Academy. Will the contestants please come to the stage? Fonga said, this is no doubt one of the most high-profile matches today and another clash between the Shrek Academy and the Monster Academy. Hopefully this will be a wonderful match. Fonga quickly adjusted her mood to prepare herself for the next match. Yuanen stood up, dressed in men's clothing as usual. She was the most inconspicuous one in the Shrek Academy team. Be careful, she whispered, seizing her sleeve. As she stepped past him, Yuanen glared at him. Keep your hand where it belongs. She withdrew his hand obediently. Yuanen walked out and headed to the stage. Tang was the young man sitting beside Long Yue. He had been looking forward to this match for a long while. Chapter 655, Yuanen versus the Shadow King. There had already been several clashes between the Monster Academy and the Shrek Academy. None of the Monster 8 Kings had any doubts that Long Yue would be the champion of the one-on-one competition, but still, they were in desperate need of a win against the Shrek Academy team, because Sun Yu, Kuo Tong, and Yuja had failed so miserably. Now a chance had come for them to redeem themselves. Tang was determined to prove to everyone that the Monster Academy team was not a one-man team. Tang is from the Monster Academy, an agility-type soul master. His nickname is the Shadow King, said Fonga. Tang hadn't entered the stage yet, and the barrier was still open, so she had revealed no info on him that might put him at a disadvantage. Yuanen stood there, waiting patiently. She was so skinny that Tang frowned with disappointment when he stepped onto the stage and laid eyes on her. Taking down such a weak-looking guy will never show how powerful I am. He had watched several of Yuanen's previous matches after he learned that his opponent was her. Judging from his fights, he should be a strength-type soul master. Strength-type soul masters have the upper hand over agility-type ones. But so what? With my speed, I'm untouchable. Begin. The audience stopped chatting, straightened their backs, and gazed down at the two contestants attentively. They hadn't been very dismayed when Sima Shen of the Imperial Douluo Academy had lost, but they would be if the Monster Academy also lost to the Shrek Academy. They had completely ignored the age gap between the competitors of the two schools. The only thing they cared about now was crushing the Shrek Academy team. Tang immediately started sprinting, 5 purple soul rings revolving around him. Then the third one lit up as 2 clones appeared out of thin air. The 3 of them were moving extremely fast, charging at Yuanen from 3 different angles and leaving after images behind them. Yuanen's 4 purple rings appeared, the first and the third shining. She grew larger and larger, bursting her clothes and showing her super elastic suit, and turned into a 16 feet tall giant in an instant. By then the 3 Tangs had already reached her, but they didn't attack right away. Instead, they started running around the Diamond Titan. With their speed in the after images they were continuously casting. It looked as if there were 30 Tangs. It was not a soul skill but a technique he had invented. Tang was holding a pitch black dagger in each hand. A soul dagger. Soul devices were also permitted to be used in the one-on-one competition. His martial soul was the shadow, and his clones were shadow clones, which were physically real. Agility-type soul masters were blessed with high speed. Using his speed and shadow clones, Tang had developed this technique to confuse his opponents. Such an aggressive start to the match had immediately grabbed the attention of the audience. Tang is now using a high-tier fighting skill exclusive to agility-type soul masters. Fonga said, nervous with excitement. His speed is making his opponent unable to keep track of his movements while he is biding his time, waiting for an opportunity. Yuanen seems to be strong. His martial soul should be the Titan Giant Ape, the king of the jungle. It's one of the most powerful martial souls. Will he dodge Tang's attack, or will he block it? We're about to find out soon enough. Yuanen didn't try to track his movements like most people would do. She stood there, calm and focused. She seemed to have read Tang's mind. If you want an opening in my defense, then I'll give you an opening. Her second soul ring started shining. She took a step forward, pulled her fist back, and punched the air. The instant Yuanen took that step, 2 of the 3 Tangs stopped running and pounced towards her back, aiming the daggers at her 2 sides. It was too good an opportunity for him to miss, and Tang was known for his decisiveness. With her standing like that, it was almost impossible for her to dodge the attacks from the 2 blind angles. When many people thought it was over, a loud deep sound shook the arena. Boom! Yuanen's air cannon was so forceful that it seemed to have warped the space in front of her. Being dragged helplessly by this force, the 2 Tangs missed her and flew past her sides. Then she shot out 2 large palms and struck them. The 2 Tangs disappeared. They had been shadow clones. A blur of movements, and Tang was already 100 feet away from her. You can warp space? Tang said, shocked. The disdainful look in his eyes was gone, and he had donned a grey face. Her punch was simple, yet it definitely warped the space for a second. He is much stronger than I thought. Chapter 656. Yuanen's battle armor. He warped the space to create a force to pull everything towards it. Tang thought, such a formidable young man. Yuanen made no reply and darted towards him. Tang dashed away, creating 2 more shadow clones, who quickly started running in different directions. Yuanen came to a sudden halt and punched the air again as she let out a beastly roar. The space over the 3 Tangs got warped again, this time more greatly than before. The 3 speeding figures stumbled a bit, but one was not as much affected as the other 2. That one must be the real, Yuanen thought, and a white ball of light shot out. Long Yue's eyes flashed with surprise. He's clearly stronger than that holy angel kid. Tang is in trouble. Before her air cannon reached Tang, his second soul ring lit up and he vanished. Yuanen looked around and immediately noticed something strange. His shadow on the ground was still running, its speed much faster. She was astonished. It was the first time she had seen such an odd soul skill. He has superb survivability as well as speed. You sure are strong. I'll give you all I got, said Tang. When the shadow was 300 feet away from Yuanen, it stopped and from it emerged Tang. The 2 clones disappeared. He thrust out both hands, and pieces of battle armor flew out of his storage rings and onto his body. A full set of one-word battle armor. It was grey with faint silver patterns. Nothing fancy but strong. All the Monster 8 Kings were one-word battle armor masters except for Yuna, whose cultivation level was too low. After gauging Yuanen's power, Tang had come to the conclusion that his opponent had gained the upper hand, and that he might lose like Kuo Tong had if he didn't use his battle armor. He was acutely conscious that this armor would bring with it shame, because he was much older and one of the Monster 8 Kings, but it sure beat losing. Watching Tang's battle armor fly onto his body, Yuanen didn't try to intervene, as she was too far away and he was too quick. She didn't just stand there doing nothing though. She summoned her own battle armor. Pieces of yellow armor appeared and covered her as her shoulders, arms, chest, and waist were shining golden. She possessed 6 pieces in total: 2 pauldrons, 2 gauntlets, a fold, and a breastplate. She was giving off a much powerful aura now that she had her armor on. The audience was astounded. Even Tang Wulin and Shishi were looking with wide eyes. She already has the core component. Shishi blurted out, yes. Normally the breastplate is the core component, answered Tang Wulin. It won't be long before she has a full set of one-word battle armor now that she has already made the most intricate piece. One had to reach rank 50 first to be able to put on a full set of one-word battle armor. Yuanen was at rank 45 now. She was the strongest among her teammates in terms of soul power, so she would definitely have reached rank 50 by the time her full set of battle armor was ready. Given that she had already gotten her core component, her battle armor should be at least 60% as powerful as a full set. Besides, its material was much better, so she was not at a distinct disadvantage here in this respect. A smile showed on Tang Wulin's face. He was happy when his friends grew stronger. A giant diamond titan clad in gleaming armor was obviously a lot more magnificent than a normal human in armor, even though his armor was a full set. Tang was holding 2 grey daggers in his hands, which were parts of his battle armor. He wasn't using any soul skill right now, but the vibes emanating from him was frightening. Right after he put on his armor, He charged, his first soul ring shining. Empowered by his battle armor, his speed was simply unimaginable, his daggers whistling through the air. In the blink of an eye, he was right in front of Yuanen Yui. He jumped up, slashing his right dagger at her left arm. It was his first soul skill, Shadow Slash. Normally such a slash wouldn't do much damage, since it was just a first soul skill, but with the one-word battle armor and his incredible speed, it was much deadlier. How can he be so fast? Yuanen Yui found she had no time to dodge or parry his attack. However, just before Tang Tang's dagger caught her, her armor turned black and she shrunk instantly as inky darkness appeared and spread across the stage. His dagger missed her completely. What the hell? Tang Tang thought, shocked. He was trapped in the darkness and couldn't see a thing, and to make matters worse, the air around him had become sticky like syrup, slowing down his movements dramatically. Could this be a domain technique? It's totally different from his other soul skills. He has twin martial souls. Long Yue and Fong said at the same time. They had seen Yuanen Yui change before their eyes from the giant diamond titan to a girl with a pair of pitch black wings and dark red hair hanging down her back. It had happened so fast that most people hadn't even noticed. The audience was wonderstruck. Only a few people possessed twin martial souls, be it on the Douluo continent or the Douluo continent. There were many tales, legends, and myths about them, but few people had ever had the chance to meet one. So when they heard Fong say that Yuanen Yui had twin martial souls, they couldn't believe their ears. Violent energy surged in the darkness. Nobody outside could see anything. Long Yue frowned, thoughtful. Chapter 657, Getting Dominated. Long Yue had been baffled as to why a four-ring soul master could have put on the core component of battle armor, but after Yuanen Yui showed her second martial soul, he understood. The soul power of a soul master with twin martial souls was stronger than that of a normal soul master who was on the same cultivation level. This Yuanen Yui is much stronger than we expected. Tang Tang couldn't see or sense anything in this darkness. He didn't know what had happened, but he didn't intend to stay here to find out. I've got to get out of here, and fast. He chose a direction and sprinted as fast as his feet could carry him, using his battle armor to create a shield of light around him. He couldn't tell if he was darting straight, but he didn't care. He just ran and ran and ran. Bang. This is the soul barrier around the stage. Yes. He was glad. I can run along the edge. There is no way the darkness has spread across the whole place. Tang Tang recommenced running, heightening his sense of hearing to prepare himself to evade any attacks he couldn't see. That was when a black figure shot out of the darkness. She flapped her pitch black wings and hovered in midair. She was wearing black armor over an elastic suit reaching down to her ankles, her dark red hair hanging loose behind her back, and her legs long and slender. There was something evil in her eyes though. For an instant the audience froze. Then they realized that this gorgeous girl was actually that plain-looking boy. Yuanen Yui's second and third soul rings started shining. Her dark purple demonic sword materialized in her hands. Empowered by her battle armor, it was 6 feet long and shining light purple, with dark energy dancing around it. At the same time, her black armor faded to a light purple, and she grew to as tall as 8 feet. This was her third soul skill, Fallen Angel Descends. She had turned into an incredibly tall and beautiful girl. She raised the demonic sword in both hands, and the dark energy brought by her fallen angel form started flooding into the sword, turning the purple even darker. The audience found her dark purple sword terrifying, even though they were watching it from afar. Suddenly, she plunged down and slashed at Tang Tang, who had just rushed out of the darkness and wanted to breathe a sigh of relief like most people will do when they manage to get out of a terrible situation alive. If Tang Tang hadn't been running at such high speed, he might be able to dodge this surprise attack, but dodging was not an option for him now. He barely got his daggers up in time, and they caught Yuanen Yui's demonic sword filled with dark energy inches from his chest, but it was too forceful an attack for him to block. Her sword drove his daggers back onto his armor, shattered them, and slashed open his armor, which was giving off brilliant light in an effort to protect its owner. With her strength and the dark energy, even a 5-ring soul master clad in a full set of one-word battle armor couldn't get out of that unscathed. Tang Tang was sent flying back into the darkness by the impact. The eyes of the audience went wide as plates. They tried to look for excuses to account for this disgraceful defeat, but found they couldn't find any. It was a good, clean fight, and the two contestants weren't holding anything back. Yuanen Yui didn't pursue him. She hovered in midair, her sword shining purple. She was thinking back on the blow she had just delivered with all her force. She couldn't have timed that attack better, and she had fused everything perfectly: the demonic sword, the dark energy, her strength, and her soul power. It had been the most powerful blow she had ever landed with her sword. She felt she had gained a better understanding of her fallen angel martial soul, and she found this fight had made her grow stronger. The darkness was dispersed to reveal Tang Tang lying on the ground. He grimaced, took a deep breath, and pulled himself up with great effort. Then he hurriedly sped away from her. Blood was welling from the hideous crack in his battle armor, and he could feel the dark energy forcing its way into his body through his wound. He mustered up all his soul power to try to fight it. Sweat sprang out on his forehead. His battle armor was designed to provide as much speed and attack power as possible, and it was relatively weak in terms of defensive power, so it had failed to block Yuanen Yui's attack. His torso and both arms were numb. He couldn't believe he was going to lose to someone with a lower cultivation level and only a few pieces of battle armor. Yuanen Yui lifted her demonic sword again and closed her eyes. Dark energy rushing into the sword. No. I can't go down like this. I refuse to go down like this. Tang Tang bit his tongue and used the pain to fight off the numbness. Chapter 658, An Easy Victory. What happened next was mind-blowing. Tang Tang's speed advantage no longer existed because he had been seriously injured, so he had to rely on his attack power if he wanted to win. He took a deep breath and his fifth soul ring lit up. One shadow after another appeared quickly, but they were standing instead of lying on the ground, and an instant later, there were already 36 of them. Then they rushed towards Tang Tang and fused into his body. Tang Tang lifted his broken daggers, his eyes shining with an intense desire to win. It seemed he had found his confidence again. 100 shadows become one, he shouted, bringing the daggers down with all his strength. 2 grey crescent-shaped sword beams immediately shot out towards Yuanen Yui. Every shadow possessed 5% of his power, so he had just released 2.8 times his power. This was his most forceful attack. The only problem with this skill was that it took a long time to prepare, but it didn't matter now, not when Yuanen Yui was also accumulating energy there to prepare for her next attack. Seeing that the sword beams were hurtling at her, she shot towards Tang Tang in a flash of light, and an instant later, she was right behind him. Tang Tang's all-out attack missed her, slammed into the barrier, and caused a massive explosion. At the same time, Yuanen Yui brought her sword down at his back and cracked his battle armor, sending him flying forward. Tang Tang coughed out a mouthful of blood in midair, his battle armor making a low moaning sound and shining in a vain attempt to cancel out the dark energy. He crashed into the barrier, bounced off, and plopped to the stage, unconscious. Yuanen Yui stood there, expressionless, her purple demonic sword in hand and her dark red hair waving in the wind. Tang Tang made a fatal mistake at the last moment. Fong said, disappointed. He didn't lock his final attack onto Yuanen Yui. That was why she dodged so easily. Truth be told, I never expected such a mistake from someone as strong and experienced as him. Fong was right. He hadn't locked that attack onto Yuanen Yui, but it had been a conscious decision rather than negligence. Normally, if a soul skill had locked onto its target, it would be difficult to dodge, for it was able to adjust its trajectory, but such a soul skill lacked speed and power. That had been Tang Tang's last attack, which had used up all his remaining soul power, and he had needed it to be powerful enough to break through Yuanen Yui's defenses and take her down, or he would be as good as defeated. Another reason had been that he had thought she would meet his attack head-on, since she had gotten the better of him, but Yuanen Yui hadn't taken any chances. Her fallen angel martial soul excelled in speed as well as attack power, and she had used the ghost shadow perplexing track to get behind him. The Shadow King had suffered a crushing defeat. Yuanen Yui had cruised to victory like Tang Wulin had. Long Yue had donned a grey face, not because they had lost another match. No, it was Yuanen Yui's titan giant ape martial soul. It was her fallen angel martial soul. Most of all, it was the fact that she was even stronger than Tang Tang. If they had learned that Yuanen Yui had twin martial souls and that both of them were extremely powerful, the result of this match may not have been such a disastrous defeat. Yuanen Yui spread her wings and flew off the stage. As soon as she landed on the ground, her wings disappeared, and she turned into a normal young girl in an elastic suit. Tang Wulin and Shishi had already stood up. Shishi rushed to greet her, sweeping his arms wide, his eyes shining with excitement. Yuanen, you're amazing. Shishi exclaimed. Yuanen Yui caught his shoulder and pushed him away. Keep your distance from me. Shishi gave a silly grin and obeyed meekly. Tang Wulin raised his right hand and Yuanen Yui slapped it. It was their way of celebration, but the sound was harsh to the Monster Academy team. Some of the contestants from other schools looked worried, and some were gloating. The audience gaped at the stage, shock written all over their faces. They couldn't accept this defeat, not after Tang had clearly given his all, but they couldn't come up with any excuses to make themselves feel better. Let's go back to the hotel, Tang Wulin said, making his way towards the exit of the stadium. Shishi's match wouldn't be until tomorrow. He had come here for Yuanen Yui. It seems we have to reevaluate the strength of the Shrek Academy team. Yuan said solemnly. But Yuanen Yui is strong. Long Yue inclined his head slightly. Is Yuanen Yui a boy or a girl? Dayuna asked, frowning. And why isn't he their captain? He's obviously stronger than Tang Wulin. Long Yue's mouth curved in a smile. Is he? I don't know about that, since I haven't seen Tang Wulin's true power yet. Besides, if you want people to follow you willingly, you have to be stronger than them all. This rule applies everywhere. I'll make him show his true power, said Dayuna. After they left the stadium, Tang Wulin turned to face Yuanen Yui. You didn't tell us you'd made the breastplate. He smiled. Yuanen Yui smiled back. You didn't ask. It was ready yesterday. We worked hard, because if we don't, we'll never catch up to you. Anyway, I won so easily, not just because of my battle armor, but because I know how to deal with agility type soul masters. She shot an angry sidelong glance at Shishi. Yeah, you sure do, said Shishi. I'm meek as a mouse before you. I hate mice, she said. Well, to hell with mice then. I can be anything you want if you go out on a date with me. Maybe I will, after you beat me. I don't like having a boyfriend who is weaker than me. Shishi's eyes flashed with excitement. Chapter 659, Tang Wulin versus Dayuna. Looking at them, Tang Wulin showed a helpless smile. She wouldn't let him off the hook easily, but it's definitely a good thing for Shishi. Because of her, his potential has been constantly stimulated. I'm glad that you've become stronger, Tang Wulin said to Yuanen Yui. We'll get a good result in this tournament. Do you know how much pressure you put on us? She asked suddenly. Tang Wulin froze for a moment, but then he saw the smile on Yuanen Yui's face. I like the pressure, she continued, and if there is no one in front of me that I can chase, I won't be this motivated and may end up at a loss, so don't let me catch up. Most people were in no mood to watch the rest of today's matches after the Monster Academy had lost a game. They were extremely dissatisfied. They wanted to win. They would like to see Long Yue fight the best of the Shrek Academy team. Tang's injury was not serious. He had almost recovered after treatment, but he still needed some recuperation. His armor had been seriously damaged, and it would take time to repair. In the later team competition, the role that his armor could play would be limited, because if it got completely destroyed, the loss would be great. It cost a fortune to make a full set of one-word battle armor. Although it was time for him to start making his two-word battle armor, since he was already a 5-ring Soul King, it couldn't be made in a short time. If the Monster Academy wanted to beat the Shrek Academy completely, they must win the 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 competitions, and they must also win the team competition, even though it was not paid much attention to, because the team competition was a contest of comprehensive strength. The strongest school was the school that won the team competition. The next day's fights were just as good. Shishi's opponent was not weak, but his high-speed attacks eliminated him. All 3 of the Shrek Academy's competitors made it to the top 32. As for the Monster Academy, all 5 competitors had successfully entered the top 32 except for Tang, who had been defeated by Yuanen Yui. Long Yue's match seemed to be no different from his preliminary ones. He won it with little effort. The next round would be held the following day. This was a little bit of a disadvantage for the contestants who had just competed today, but they had no choice but to follow the rule. The next morning, when Tang Wulin entered the stadium with Yuanen Yui and Shishi, he wore a coat with a hood covering his uniform. He had become the enemy of the Douluo Empire, a target of scorn. Every time he was seen by pedestrians on the road, he was pointed at or even cursed. The authorities could ensure their safety, but the swearing couldn't be stopped. This was the misfortune of being outsiders. Tang Wulin already knew who his opponent was. Dayuna, the Spirit King, the last of the Monster 8 Kings and the Spoiled Princess. Among the Monster 8 Kings, Dayuna was the weakest in terms of cultivation level. Like him, she was also a 4-ring Soul Master without a full set of one-word battle armor. Undoubtedly, she was a relatively easy opponent for Tang Wulin to deal with. The opponents of Yuanen Yui and Shishi were not weak, but on the flip side, they were not from the Monster Academy. The situation would not be so ideal after they made it to the top 16. Tang Wulin would have to fight Yuan, and Shishi's opponent would be an agility-type Soul Master who was ranked 4th in the Monster 8 Kings. But if everything went well and Tang Wulin advanced to the top 8, he would face Yuanen Yui. Winning this tournament was a tough task for Tang Wulin. After they walked into the waiting area, Tang Wulin took off his coat. Dayuna sprang to her feet and reached him in several strides, blocking his way. Tang Wulin, your opponent today is me. She stared at him with burning eyes. I know, Tang Wulin said with a hint of a smile. The princess shook her fist at him. If I were you, I'd yield now and save the humiliation of getting defeated. Tang Wulin rolled his eyes. No offense, but you ought to have your head examined. With that, he walked past her and went to his seat, followed by Yuanen Yui and Shishi, who tried to stifle a smile but failed. Dayuna stood there, rooted to the spot. She felt anger coiling inside her. It was the first time in her life she had been humiliated. Tang Wulin. She screamed and stormed towards him. Yet Yuan caught her by the arm before she made a bigger fool of herself. But still, some audience in the stands had heard her scream Tang Wulin's name. They represented not only the Monster Academy, but also the Douluo Empire. The princess would cause the royal family to lose face if she fought with Tang Wulin here. Paying no mind to Dayuna's shrill yelling, Tang Wulin sat down, picked up a glass of juice, and drank it, savoring its wonderful flavor. She already hates me. How much worse can it get? Dayuan was speechless. Why can't they get along? She took her seat angrily after Dayuan told her that she could teach him a lesson soon enough on the stage today. If eyes could kill, Tang Wulin would have been killed 100 times by her glares. After this round, the contestants would be given a day off before the next round. The first match was about to start, and the audience had become tense. Today would witness another clash between the Shrek Academy and the Monster Academy, and the fight was between the captain of the Shrek Academy team and the princess of the Douluo Empire. They wondered who would win. Not many people knew the true power of the princess. She was a 4-ring Soul Master and ranked at the bottom of the Monster 8 Kings. Considering that Tang Wulin had already defeated Sunyu, she seemed to be the underdog in this match. However, she was said to be a genius more talented than the 4th prince, Yuan, and she had allegedly inherited some kind of ability from her ancestors. If she managed to defeat the captain of the Shrek Academy team, she would be hailed as the goddess of the whole empire. Of course, they would not blame her, even if she lost. They would blame her opponent for being too cunning. It was hard not to be biased in situations like this one. Chapter 660, Tang Wulin, you're so gonna die. Tang Wulin wasn't the first to fight today, because they could only rig the tournament so much without getting people suspicious. Shishi would fight the 3rd match, Yuanen Yui the 7th, Tang Wulin the 8th. Shishi's opponent was a 5-ring Soul King, a powerful one, albeit without a full set of one-word battle armor. It had taken this agility-type Soul Master a good 15 minutes to find an opportunity to break through his defenses. Yuanen Yui's opponent might be the weakest among them 32. She defeated him and advanced without breaking a sweat. It was quite rare for someone as young as them to make it into the top 16 in the Continental Young Elites tournament. Now it was time for Tang Wulin to enter the stage. I'll beat him to the point where he can no longer move. Dayuna said to her brother after the 7th match was over, staring at Tang Wulin. Calm down, Yuna, replied Dayuan. Tang Wulin heard her, but he didn't even bother to turn to look. He stood up and walked to the stage. Dayuna stormed down after him, furious. You're so gonna die, Tang Wulin. A voice said in Tang Wulin's head. Dayuna's voice. Her spiritual power was strong enough to send her thoughts into his mind. He didn't like Dayuna, but in his heart he knew she was not an opponent to be trifled with. She's the princess, but this is hardly the only reason she's one of the Monster 8 Kings. Perhaps her spiritual power alone is enough to secure that title. Dayuna glared at him silently on the stage, her hands coiling into fists. If not for the referee standing between them, she might have already lashed out at him. In this match, we have Princess Dayuna, the Spirit King, who is an agility-type Soul Master with the Hell Civet for a martial soul passed down through the royal family, said Fonga, and we have the captain of the Shrek Academy team, Tang Wulin, a strength-type Soul Master. He has shown some really fascinating techniques in his previous fights, but we have seen neither of their true power yet, so the outcome of this match is anybody's guess. Actually, Fonga wasn't in great hopes that the princess would win. She had seen what Tang Wulin's power and unknown ability could do, but she had to exaggerate a bit, since she was the princess and all. Dayuna sprinted the instant the referee told them to begin. She was incredibly fast, leaving after images behind her. Her soul rings appeared, 3 purple and 1 black, the same as those of Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin was surprised. Her martial soul is The Hell Civet, the same as one of Wu Sijuo's. He didn't know that both the Hell Civet martial soul and the White Tiger martial soul were owned exclusively by the royal family of the Douluo Empire. He stood there, waiting for her attack. There is no way she got her strong spiritual power from her Hell Civet martial soul. When Dou Yunen was only 100 feet away from Tang Wulin, her first soul ring lit up. Hell Rush. The same first soul skill as that of Wu Sijuo, a blur of movement, and she was slashing down at Tang Wulin with her claws. Suddenly, Tang Wulin caught a glimpse of her eyes, big, as blue as sapphire, and then he felt so dizzy and lightheaded, as if he was about to faint. A spasm of pain shot through his chest an instant later, triggering his golden dragon body and clearing his mind a little. He immediately realized Dou Yunen had just unleashed a spiritual attack on him, so he quickly used his purple demon eyes to resist it. Tang Wulin was sent flying backwards 20 feet or so by her slash before he staggered to steady himself. The people in the stands didn't understand why Tang Wulin had done nothing to block the princess's attack, but they could care less. They were euphoric to see his ass get beaten. Thunderous cheer and applause went up in the stadium. The excitement of the audience could even be heard 3 miles away. Tang Wulin shook his head vigorously, and with the help of the purple demon eyes, his head was finally clear, and his body felt his own again. Dou Yunen's attack had been powerful, but Tang Wulin's golden dragon body had been activated in time to fend it off. He was hurt, but not badly, not so far as bone and flesh were concerned. The 5 scratches on his scales were slowly fading away. Dou Yunen pounced on Tang Wulin again, and her second soul skill, 100 Hell Claws, was upon him as he steadied himself. Purple light shot out of Tang Wulin's eyes to protect himself from the princess's spiritual attack, and at the same time he threw a punch at her, a simple punch, yet its power seemed to have compressed the air around her and made it hard for her to breathe. Dou Yunen bent her knees and avoided his blow nimbly enough. Tang Wulin's punch struck nothing but air. He lifted his right foot and was going to unleash golden dragon shakes the earth, but Dou Yunen was quicker than him. She saw the gap in his attacks and took advantage by rushing in. The best defense is a good offense. A beam of light shot towards Tang Wulin. This was her third soul skill, Hell Slash. Tang Wulin was shocked by her quick reaction. There was no way he could evade this attack, not when it was just a foot from him. He had no choice but to use the golden dragon tyrant body to meet it, his golden scales shining resplendently. The beam of light caught him on his chest, but didn't break through his defenses. Tang Wulin absorbed the power in her attack and brought his foot down hard. Golden dragon shakes the earth. However, Dou Yunen managed to leap away before the phantom dragons could even reach her. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.